Welcome back. We're keeping our focus on ensuring that things turn out right ahead of the 2023 general elections. As you may have seen in that welcoming slide, your Olukotun joins us next. He is a professor of political science. He's also a chair of the editorial boards of Daily Times, and he's been a media educator for different scenarios and different places. So now he joins us to take us through what he's seen about the party primaries, different political parties, and now that all of the agitations, contestations, and preparations for the 2023 is underway, he's here to give us his perspectives. Good morning. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
Well, you've seen all of this going on. We're hoping it's not deja vu for you, having seen us going through this process again. But from what you've seen in terms of how the nation, the players, the actors, the media is going about this forthcoming elections, what sticks out for you?
Well, you use the right word, deja vu. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, my friend. But this sense of recycling the old ways that haven't served us too well, and therefore a premonition that we are going the same old way that we have trod ever so often. You know, I think it was Wole Soyinka that talked about, African life being a recycling of tragedy and familiar ways. That, I agree, may be overly pessimistic, because you must always leave a chance for the odd happening, the odd factor, the odd chance that things may start wearily, humdrumly, and yet somehow turn out brightly. But from the way it has unfolded so far, there's not much room to expect a very different outcome.
It would seem that we have all somehow implicitly agreed that things should go this way. I know from time to time people come out and say, things must not go this way. Okay, we've done this time and again, but there's so much noise, but at least little changes on the outlook, or generally when you look at things. So is it a function of, I know we all say the leadership, but is this just some tacit agreement, even from the followership as well, saying, you know what, just let things keep going this way?
Well, mediocrity conditions you. It conditions your choices. And to that extent, if we've had so far mediocre governance, as indeed we have had, if not worse than that, then that kind of thing conditions what may happen. There's a law like that in science, that things that happen around you, your environment, your choices, condition and even foreclose at times the possibility of greater and more inspiring outcome. So, to put it starkly and simply, where we are today, because of the choices that we have made in the past, the opportunities that we have missed, the lack of vision, and as you imply, the lack of effective leadership, and of course followership.
So what is that spark we're looking for? I don't know, is it the elections? Is that what will create the opportunity for us? Is it way before the elections that we should have done something? What is that spark that can begin to turn things around for Nigeria?
Way before the elections, that's one. Then secondly, those who are in control of power, however ruthless they have used that power, and however unsparingly they have used that power, will not give it up without a fight. So, and not many people in careers, in professions, want to take that risk, that leap. It's something to say to people, go and join them. You don't just stay by the ringside complaining. But the odds are great. And if the fight is going to be bloody, and ruthless, then they are not likely to take a chance. Let me give an example. When you ask people to pay 100 million naira to register and express interest in a position, which is the highest ever we have come. How many people, frankly, I mean, as a university professor, I know how much my take-home pay is. Even when I retire, okay, I know how much I will be paid as gratuity, pension, and all that. So where am I going to get 100 million naira? In fact, I think that questions should have been raised about those who came up with 100 million naira, because somebody made some calculation that the president's salary for 4 years and the vice president's salary for 4 years do not reach up to that height. But people prescribe it. Of course, there was some hula baloo, but then it became jest. It became entertainment of sorts. Nobody was sorry or regretted doing it. So here we are. So, and what does that do? It excludes a significant stratum of the population, and perhaps the most intelligent and the most capable in terms of governance. Why can't we be like Greece has elected a professor as president before? Some other countries in Europe have elected intellectuals, professors who don't have deep pockets. But here it doesn't go that way. So I think there's a deliberate attempt even to exclude those who may even have made a difference.
And since you reference your pay package, monthly, it reminds me of what ASU said recently about how it will require a university lecturer 100 years to save to get 100 million naira to pay for APC's expression of interest and nomination forms. That's by the wayside anyway.
It's a central point.
And that excludes the academics from participating in the electoral process. But to refer to Kayade's submission about how the people may be complicit in the exclusion from the electoral process because they're complacent, so to speak. I see rather, an awakening in this, particularly in this electioneering period, how the youths are coming out en masse to register. Now, again, about the spark he talked about, is that what will lead us to the engendering of that ideological debate that would mark a new narrative in Nigeria's political landscape? Are you optimistic in that direction?
I'm afraid not. That trend you described is good, is happy. It contrasts with the years of apathy, sit-down look, and all that. But there are contradictory trends also. As a university teacher, I know that out of every 10 Nigerian young person I talk to, 9 of them are looking for the earliest opportunity to emigrate, to leave the country. 9 of them out of 10. I gave a lecture recently, and I was referring to that song that was sung a decade ago in Yoruba, Enyi Onyibo, Efumi ni visa. Esi future, Efumi ni visa. And the country has gotten progressively worse since that song was sung. Somebody told me that he eventually got a visa and emigrated. So there's a bit of schizophrenia about the emerging development. Yes, on the one hand, enthusiasm of the youth. We are the demographic majority, that's true. The future belongs to us, that's true. And we had NSAS, which was a good development. Remember the daughter of the vice president and the daughter of the president Buhari were in NSAS. They joined the movement out of fellow feeling, empathy, frustration, whatever. But you know that the country is not well run, and it has gotten progressively worse, for a long time. So that enough for those who are still young and who have a future to keep, to cultivate, to create. That itself is enough to make people want to go. People are dying every day from insecurity. As I was coming, I was listening to the radio, and they said some bishop somewhere and the wife and the daughter were kidnapped. People are dying every day, And as I've written in my Punch column several times, there's not enough attention to the tragedies that we witness before our very eyes. And some have even theorized that there's a measure of complicity. That may not have been proved, but if not complicity, at least a measure of indifference.
You know, I've heard young people now these days saying, yes, we can travel, but we're leaving the family behind. And I think there's been this sort of consensus saying traveling abroad is not the solution, which is perhaps why we're seeing that push, that drive from young people. We want to get involved in this. Let's make a future, not just for ourselves, but for our children. So perhaps that has since changed. Not every young person wants to travel abroad because they'll say, even if we travel, our parents, our family members are back here. And it takes me back to that question about the spark. What spark are we looking for, do we need right now to turn things around? Looks like we've not touched on that yet.
The spark is leadership. Visionary leadership, creative leadership. That's the spark that's missing. Everybody knows it. You know, when you recycle tepid leadership, you're not doing anybody any, you're not helping the matter. The spark is leadership. I mean, all these great countries we talk about, you remember the Asian Tigers, Lin Kuan Yew, all of them, they were visionary leaders. And which means they set goals, they mobilized the nation behind them to achieve those goals, and they achieved the bulk of those goals. That's what leadership means. So if leadership is indifferent, is lukewarm to gargantuan problems. Only recently we had in the news an accountant general made away with 80 billion naira. And then in some other state, I think Rivers, 432 billion naira disappeared, and they are looking for it. The primaries that have just been held, one of the aspirants said the process was obscenely monetized, and he's right.
I know you're familiar with Clapper, 1960. Well, he made several generalizations about mass media messages, theories about how they function through a nexus of mediating effects and factors and influences. When in the opening you said, from what you've seen, there isn't much room for maneuvering or making some sort of impact. One wonders, that came across as defeatist. But we also know that in this kind of scenario, the electorates, the leaders, they all have roles to play. So were you trying to say that it's seemingly all doom and gloom? Because this process requires the electorate to stand up and get their voices heard.
Yes. I try to balance it all. There's something in political science we call voting without choosing. You go there to vote, you line up, do all the rituals and all that, that's a campaign, but you're not really choosing. Why are you not choosing? The options have been foreclosed. Once the options are foreclosed, you are just undertaking a ritual that at the end of the day is meaningless. One of the problems I see is that in our constitution, we need to introduce a process whereby if leaders disappoint us, we can remove them. We don't have that process now. Of course, there is something about if you have 2/3 of the two assemblies, where will you even get that to start with? Because there's a lock-in. There's a lock-in of mediocrity, a lock-in of corruption, a lock-in of propaganda, of the wrongest sort, that says, oh, he's saying all of this because he's from so-so ethnic group. Oh, he won't perform, all of that travesty that we've had over time. So, yes, there's a narrow chance that things may work out differently. But all I'm saying as a scientist is that the omens are not that encouraging.
How do we relate to it when you say the options have been foreclosed? Because we know we have more than 10 political parties. Many of them have presidential candidates. So, to what extent is it foreclosed when we have that much choices?
Yes, what do you call it? Theoretically, you see, but it's a game with rules. So when you create rules that exclude people, okay, why can't a party be Nigeria's president? Just to give a random example.
It's a democracy.
I know, but a democracy that is arranged or structured in such a way that some options do not appear, non-options.
Are you saying that the result has been determined before the process starts?
In effect, is like when you shoot a film and you know what happens, you already know the end from the beginning. So all I'm saying is that the empirical realities of Nigeria and the fight, the class war, I call it the class war, which is getting more brutal now, because, see, let us remember, Nigeria is a potentially great country, but it has been potentially great for a long time. But that potential has not translated into greatness, okay? But what we have is not an unwavering poverty or bleakness. You have people who have built houses in this city that as good as what Ross Perot, the American billionaire, has built in Lagos. You have businessmen who are cited on the stock exchange globally. Some of the richest men and women are in this country, side by side with a desperate ghettoization of the majority of Nigerians.
So besides the electorate, what role do political parties have to contribute to, a sort of, because you say that leadership is the solution, is what will precipitate that spark. So what roles do political parties have to elicit that debate that will bring about a value reorientation that would cause the Nigerian political space to depart from the monetization of politics and all of that, related erosion of our values?
Good question. The political parties are supposed to be centers of intellectual exchanges, topical discourse, alternative viewpoints for national progress. Regrettably and sadly, they are not. As far as I'm concerned, as I've seen, they are just money-sharing groups. As far as I've seen. I have a friend who wanted to be governor of one of the states. He was attending, and he said to me, he said, Prof, one of my regrets, because he came from the UK, where, in summer, in the UK, all these parties have conferences where they engage with ideas, and policy issues and how changes can be brought about. And it causes quite a stir. But how when was the last time that any political party engaged in a genuine policy dialogue that can change the country and move it forward?
Well, Prof, do you belong to any political party?
No, I don't.
But why don't
I'm non-partisan.
Why don't you take this conversation into a political party?
I have a weekly column in The Punch.
Don't you think you'd be more effective
every week
in a political party?
And I've written about, some of this I'm saying are things I've written about over time. So I don't think anybody is listening. Don't
you think you would then be more effective if you belong to a political party
absolutely.
And present these views? I'm sure nobody will say they didn't hear you.
Well, I have to weigh that carefully with my use of time, alternative use of my time, because as an academic, I'm employed to do research, to teach, to globalize my interests, ideas, and viewpoints. I enjoy doing that. I don't know if my time will not. I could consult. If I'm invited as a consultant, academics all over the world are invited as consultants. But that's not the same thing as going to enmesh myself in a political party.
Well, I guess we'll have many parts, and we can all play different roles. That's the body, the different parts, fingers, hands, legs. So it will be interesting to see how that eventually turns out. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Ayo Olukotun, for your perspectives this morning.
Thank you. It's nice being here.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some comments coming through from you out there. This first tweet comes from Yaro. He says, the sooner we stopped comparing democracy in Nigeria to what's practiced in the Western world, the better for us. It is as if we are shying away from our realities and denying our diversity, our culture and values, he goes on to say, are worlds apart, and we must take that into cognizance.
Well, take a look at this tweet from Law Alpha Cross saying, with the desperation exhibited by political parties and their candidates, it is possible that the rules of engagement may be tampered with, but it behoves INEC to rise to the occasion by effectively regulating the system.
Well, Ejikeze is comparing systems of government here, and he says we must never compare military rule to democracy. I strongly believe that our democracy is developing. The voting process is becoming more reliable. 23 years may seem like a long time, but we're making huge progress. We just need to keep at it. Well, the glass is either half empty or half full for Ejike. Malkwe?
Well, our Chino Carlito, very interesting name, has this one to say. Says, getting it right goes beyond rhetorics and social media fanfare. The elite have weaponized hunger, and the only recipe for curing this chronic hunger will get it right. When a hungry, angry man sees food, what do you think will be his first reaction?
Maslow's love needs, right? This one from Omodu says, in 2023, Nigeria's president must be tactful, dexterous, sensitive, and strategic to solve the many challenges confronting the nation. He must be morally, mentally, and physically fit to mix the elements of governance in perfect agreement for our collective good. I hope you're not asking for a Ronaldo.
The question is, how old do you even know? But take a look at this next one from Monica Inakena. 2023, he says, Nigerians must ensure that it's only candidates who will be elected ensure that candidates elected will be the ones that have capacity and capabilities of enacting policies and programs that will exhume Nigeria from the doldrums of poverty and a country where inherent politics will be fundamental, he says.
Well, that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sending in your feedback as well. I'm Malkwe Ogunyuso.
Looked like Malkwe was trying to digest that tweet.
Or continue the program somewhere else.
Well, I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
And I'm Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Thank you for watching.
I'm Chamberlain Osar. Goodbye.